Money decisions rarely begin with numbers. They begin with emotion, memory, and pressure. In the United States, short-term finance lives in the space between today's needs and tomorrow's worries. It shows up in the moments most people don't label as financial decisions at all. The grocery aisle, late at night, the gas pump blinking closer to empty, the phone screen lighting up with a payment reminder during lunch break. These moments are not about spreadsheets. They are about relief, fear, and control. Short-term money behavior is shaped by how modern American life moves. Paychecks arrive in cycles, but expenses arrive daily. Rent, utilities, subscriptions, food, transportation, childcare, medical costs. They do not wait for the perfect moment. When income timing and expense timing don't match, the brain looks for shortcuts. People don't choose speed because they're careless. They choose speed because uncertainty is uncomfortable, and the mind is wired to reduce discomfort fast. Psychologically, short-term finance activates the survival part of the brain. When money feels tight, attention narrows. Long-term thinking fades into the background. The question stops being, is this optimal? And becomes, will this get me through the week? In that stat, the Americans are not reckless. They are adaptive. They are responding to pressure using the tools available in the moment, whether that's a credit card, a payment plan, or simply putting the problem off until tomorrow. American culture quietly reinforces this behavior. Speed is praised. Convenience is marketed as freedom. Financial systems are designed to remove friction at the point of spending and delay friction until later. Swiping a card takes seconds. Feeling the weight of the decision may take months. This gap between action and consequence is where short-term finance thrives. The brain registers the benefit immediately, but the cost feels abstract, distant, and negotiable. Short-term decisions also carry emotional meaning. Spending can signal normalcy, dignity, and belonging. Avoiding certain expenses can feel like falling behind or missing out. Many Americans are not chasing luxury. They are chasing stability, or at least the appearance of it. The choice to say yes today often protects identity more than comfort. It says, I'm still okay. I'm still keeping up. What makes short-term finance so powerful is that it often works, at least temporarily. Problems get solved. Lights stay on, food gets bought. Stress drops for a moment. The system rewards immediacy, and the human brain learns quickly from relief. Over time, this creates patterns that are logical responses to an environment that demands flexibility, but offers little margin for error. This is not a story of poor discipline or bad character. It is a story of people navigating a financial landscape where time itself has become a cost. Short-term finance is not just about money moving faster. It is about people trying to feel safe in a system that rarely slows down long enough to let them breathe. Short-term finance doesn't just live in emergencies. It lives in the ordinary spaces where Americans make dozens of small decisions without ever calling them financial. Morning coffee on the way to work. A quick lunch ordered because time feels scarce. A ride instead of a walk because energy is low. These choices are not about indulgence. They are about preserving mental bandwidth in a world that demands constant output. The human brain treats money differently when it feels predictable versus when it feels fragile. When income feels stable, decisions slow down. When income feels uncertain, speed increases. Many Americans live in that middle zone where income exists, but confidence does not. The paycheck comes, but it disappears quickly. That creates a subtle urgency that never fully shuts off. Even on good days, the mind stays alert, scanning for potential disruptions. Short-term finance is also shaped by exhaustion. After a full workday, self-control is not infinite. The brain looks for rest, not optimization. Systems that offer pay later, split payments, or instant approval don't just sell access. They sell relief. Relief from thinking. Relief from delaying. Relief from saying no. In moments of fatigue, the future version of ourselves feels like someone else entirely, someone better equipped to deal with consequences. This separation between present self and future self is one of the most powerful forces in money behavior. The present self feels real. The future self feels hypothetical. Short-term finance thrives in that gap. It allows people to solve today's problem using tomorrow's resources. Psychologically, that feels reasonable when today feels heavier than tomorrow. The mind discounts future stress in favor of present calm. Social comparison quietly amplifies this effect. Americans are surrounded by curated images of success, stability, and ease. Even when people know those images are incomplete, they still shape expectations. When everyone appears to be managing fine, struggling can feel like a personal failure instead of a systemic reality. Short-term financial choices can become a way to hide strain, even from oneself. There is also a deep trust placed in systems. Many people believe that if something truly dangerous were happening, there would be a clearer warning. But short-term finance rarely announces itself as a problem. It whispers, it smooths, it delays. The systems are designed to feel manageable right up until they aren't. By the time stress becomes visible, it often feels sudden, even though it was building quietly all along. What's important to understand is that these behaviors are learned responses. They are reinforced by outcomes. When using short-term solutions keeps life moving, the brain marks them as effective. Over time, they become default settings, not conscious strategies. People aren't choosing short-term thinking every day. They are living inside it. This is why short-term finance is not about intelligence or awareness. It's about environment, timing, and emotional load. In a system that runs on immediacy, people adapt to survive. They make choices that keep them functional, presentable, and moving forward, even if the cost is deferred. Understanding this isn't about judgment. It's about seeing the invisible forces that shape everyday money decisions long before anyone sits down to think about the future. Short-term finance is also shaped by memory, not just personal memory, but collective memory. Many Americans carry the emotional residue of past financial shocks, even if they don't consciously name them. A layoff years ago, a medical bill that arrived without warning, a period where money disappeared faster than it came in. The brain remembers vulnerability longer than stability. Once uncertainty has been experienced, the mind prepares for it to return. This creates a quiet mindset of use it while you can. When money is available now, spending it can feel safer than trusting it to remain available later. Saving, waiting, or delaying can feel risky when past experience suggests that stability is temporary. Short-term finance becomes a way to convert abstract money into tangible security, something real that can be touched, used, or enjoyed before it disappears. There is also a strong link between short-term money behavior and control. In large financial systems, individuals often feel small. Prices rise without explanation. Policies change without warning. Decisions are made far away by people never met. Short-term choices are one of the few places where control feels immediate and personal. Saying yes or no in the moment can restore a sense of agency, even if the long-term outcome is uncertain. Time pressure intensifies this effect. American life is scheduled tightly. Commutes, shifts, deadlines, family obligations, all competing for attention. When time feels scarce, the brain treats delays as costs. Waiting feels expensive. Short-term financial tools thrive because they promise speed in a culture that rarely allows pause. The faster the solution, the more attractive it becomes, regardless of future trade-offs. Short-term finance also interacts with hope. Many people expect tomorrow to be better. A raise, a new job, fewer expenses, more stability. This optimism is not naive. It's often necessary. Hope makes pressure tolerable. It allows people to bridge the gap between today's strain and tomorrow's possibility. Short-term decisions often lean on that hope, assuming future improvement will absorb today as compromises. But hope has a timing problem. The future improvement rarely arrives all at once. It comes slowly, unevenly, and often alongside new expenses. When progress is incremental, yesterday's short-term decisions remain, quietly claiming space in the background. They don't feel urgent until they accumulate, and by then they can feel overwhelming. Importantly, most Americans are not unaware of this pattern. They sense Italiano. They feel the tension between now and later. But awareness alone doesn't dissolve pressure. Understanding long-term consequences does not remove short-term needs. The brain prioritizes survival over strategy. When energy, money, or certainty runs low, immediacy wins. Short-term finance is often described as a trap, but traps imply deception. What's happening is more human than that. People are making rational choices inside constrained conditions. They're trading future flexibility for present stability, because stability feels scarce. In that context, short-term thinking is not a flaw. It is a response. This is why meaningful change, when it happens, often begins not with numbers, but with reduced pressure. When breathing room appears, time horizons naturally extend. The mind lifts its gaze. Until then, short-term finance remains a tool people use to stay afloat, to protect identity, and to maintain momentum in a system that rarely slows down long enough to ask how they read doing. Short-term finance also reshapes how Americans think about risk. Traditional ideas of risk assume people are choosing between good and bad outcomes. In reality, many are choosing between discomfort now and uncertainty later. When the present feels heavy enough, future risk becomes acceptable, even invisible. The brain reframes the situation not as taking a risk, but as avoiding pain. This reframing happens quietly. A decision that might look impulsive from the outside often feels stabilizing on the inside. Paying for convenience, speed, or flexibility reduces friction in daily life. That reduction has emotional value. It buys calm, even briefly. And calm is scarce in a system where financial stress often runs in the background, like low-level noise. Short-term finance is also reinforced by how success is measured. In American culture, being functional is often treated as being fine. Showing up, paying what's due this month, keeping things moving. These become markers of competence. As long as nothing breaks visibly, the system appears to be working. Short-term solutions support that appearance. They keep life smooth enough to avoid questions, both from others and from oneself. There is also a silence around money strain. Many Americans are surrounded by people making similar short-term choices, which normalizes the behavior. When everyone is juggling feels normal. Conversations numbers stay private. Without shared language for financial pressure, people interpret their experience as individual rather than structural. Short-term finance fills that gap by offering private solutions to shared problems. Technology intensifies this pattern. Financial tools are now embedded directly into everyday actions. The line between spending and financing has blurred. Decisions happen faster than reflection. The body moves before the mind catches up. This is not accidental. Systems are designed to match human psychology, not resist Italiano. They align perfectly with a brain seeking ease, speed, and certainty in an uncertain environment. Over time, this changes emotional baselines. What once felt like a temporary bridge begins to feel permanent. The nervous system adjusts. Stress becomes familiar. The absence of stress feels unusual. Short-term finance doesn't always create crisis. More often, it creates normalization, a steady hum of manageable pressure that never quite resolves, but rarely explodes. What's often missed in discussions about money behavior is the role of dignity. Many short-term decisions protect a sense of self. They allow people to feel capable, independent, and responsible in the moment. Saying yes today can feel more dignified than saying no and confronting limits. In that sense, short-term finance is not about excess. It is about maintaining identity under pressure. This is why fear-based messaging rarely works. Warning people about future consequences assumes they are unaware or careless. Most are neither. They are balancing emotional survival with financial reality. Until the environment changes, the behavior remains rational within its context. Short-term finance is not a mistake people make once. It is a rhythm people fall into. It syncs with PE cycles, work schedules, and emotional energy. It becomes part of how life is managed. Understanding this rhythm is essential to understanding why short-term thinking persists, even among people who want something different. The behavior is not the problem. It is the signal. By the time short-term finance becomes fully visible, it often feels like it appeared out of nowhere. But in reality, it has been quietly shaping behavior for years. It lives in habits, not headlines. It grows in the background of ordinary life, where decisions are made quickly and rarely revisited. The accumulation is slow enough to ignore until it isn't. What's striking is how adaptable people become. Americans are remarkably skilled at adjusting to financial strain without naming it as such. They recalibrate expectations. They redefine what manageable means. Stress that would have once felt temporary becomes part of the baseline. The mind normalizes it, not because it's healthy, but because it's familiar. Short-term finance also changes how people relate to time. The future becomes less like a destination and more like a moving target. Plans are provisional. Certainty is postponed. This doesn't eliminate dreams, but it compresses them. Big ideas about life, freedom, and stability are quietly downsized into smaller, nearer goals. Making it through the month, avoiding surprises, keeping options open. The horizon moves closer, not because ambition disappears, but because attention is consumed by what's immediately in front of us. There is a quiet grief in this process, though it's rarely articulated. Not grief for money itself, but for the mental space that disappears when every decision carries weight. When financial thinking becomes reactive, curiosity shrinks, creativity narrows. Life feels more managed than lived. Short-term finance doesn't just affect accounts. It affects how people imagine their future selves. And yet, there is resilience here. The same systems that create pressure also reveal how deeply people care about stability, responsibility, and continuity. Short-term decisions are often acts of care for family, for work, for dignity. They keep households functioning and routines intact. They allow people to show up, even when resources are thin. Understanding short-term finance requires holding two truths at once. These behaviors can be limiting over time, and they can be deeply rational in the moment. They are shaped by environment, culture, technology, and emotional load, far more than by knowledge alone. When systems reward immediacy and penalize delay, people learn to move fast. This is why conversations about money that ignore psychology feel incomplete. Numbers explain outcomes, but behavior explains motion. Short-term finance is the motion. It is how people move through a financial system that rarely pauses, rarely reassures, and rarely aligns with human pacing. Seen this way, short-term finance is not a moral failing or a lack of discipline. It is a mirror. It reflects how modern American life handles uncertainty, time, and pressure. It shows what happens when people are asked to be flexible without being given slack. The choices make sense once the environment is understood, and that understanding is where real clarity begins. Not with blame or advice, but with seeing the pattern clearly, compassionately, and honestly, as a human response to a system that keeps asking for more, faster.